Oh my goodness. No puppies in the garden beds. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rooted in Blooms. My name is Caitlin, and today we are starting tomato seeds among a few other things as well. At the time of recording this, it is March 13th, which is the perfect time for me to go ahead and start my tomato seeds for my zone, which I am growing in zone 6B. Now, some gardeners might start their tomatoes earlier on in the season, and that's fine if you do. I started my pepper seeds a couple weeks ago, and a lot of gardeners will start both of them together. Peppers take a little bit longer to grow in, which is why I started them earlier than my tomatoes. But the downside about starting tomatoes a little early is that sometimes you run out of room. So this year I am opting to do more of a 6-week from my last projected frost date rather than an 8-week, just to give my grow room a little bit more space. And then I feel like last year I did plant my tomatoes out a little early. It was very cold and rainy. We never got below freezing or anything, but I feel like it stunted my plants a little bit. So this year I've decided to start my tomatoes just a little later in the season for myself and see how they do. So along with the tomatoes today, I will be starting some greens, some lettuces, some bok choy, some spinach, arugula. All of those things could be direct seeded, but I'm gonna go ahead and get them started indoors just so that I'll have them ready whenever my last frost date comes around. It's another perfect seed starting day here in the Ozarks. It is 75 degrees. Today I am sitting in the shade because it's actually quite hot if you are directly out in the sun. Sad to say that this weather is not going to last for us. Of course, it is still the month of March, and of course with our crazy weather here, tomorrow we're going to see temperatures dropping down well below freezing. So another reminder that even though we have beautiful days like this, Mother Nature is not quite done with winter. But what better time than to get our hands a little dirty with some soil. Now, I have already gone ahead and gotten all of my seed trays started with some seed starting mix. If you watched my last video, I did go into some details about how I make that mix. It is a 3-part mix. It's perlite, peat moss, and vermiculite. You can watch my previous video for more details on how I make that, but I have gone ahead and taken all of my 6 cells I'm going to be using today. I have gone ahead and filled them with that mix. The mix is dampened slightly just so that it's a little bit more tactile for the seeds to grab onto. I find that starting seeds is just a little bit easier that way. And then that way I don't need to worry about watering all of these after I get them planted. Now today I am going to be starting a number of tomatoes along with, like I said, some other things, but let's talk about the tomatoes first. So the last couple of years, I have been growing my tomatoes in my longest bed, which is a 4x16. I have a cattle panel trellis, which is exactly 16 feet long, and I plan to grow all of my indeterminate tomatoes on that trellis again this year. If you are new to gardening, a indeterminate tomato is essentially what that means is that it continues to grow regardless of the length of time. If the weather conditions are perfect, that tomato is just going to take off and sprawl. Basically, what that means is that any indeterminate tomato can easily get over 8 feet tall, which is why we want to use something like a cattle panel trellis. Now, I am going to be starting a couple of different determinate tomatoes, and those are perfect for growing in large grow pots. And we'll walk through the different varieties that I'm planting today. But again, there are 2 different types of tomatoes if you're new to gardening and you didn't know, the indeterminate and the determinate. So if you are starting your tomato seeds this month with me, or even if you're looking to purchase maybe some tomato starts at a nursery, you want to make sure you pay attention to that distinction between the 2 types of tomatoes, and based off of what you buy, you can determine the type of space maybe that you need to grow that tomato in. A lot of people will assume, they can purchase a indeterminate tomato and throw a tomato cage on it, and what ends up happening is that it easily outgrows that space. So just be mindful of what kind of tomatoes you purchase or plant in the future. Today I have actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different varieties I'll be starting today. Like I said, I am planting the majority of them along a 16-foot trellis. I am doing a little bit of a tight approach to planting. Now, tomatoes, like I said, they can sprawl, especially the indeterminate ones. But what I plan on doing with my indeterminates is keeping them heavily pruned. That's really beneficial for me in my growing zone. We have a lot of humidity, especially late summer. Tomatoes don't like humid weather. They can be more prone to diseases and fungal issues. And so I'm going to heavily prune them regardless. And because I'm going to be heavily pruning them, I should be able to kind of cram more tomatoes in the square footage. Now, I am not doing a tomato per square foot. I am giving it a little bit more space than that. But I am looking to plant, I believe it's around 14, yeah, 14 plants along the 16-foot space. So the ones that I'll be planting today are a couple of different cherry tomato varieties. I've got the Sun Gold here, and I've got another variety I've had for a number of years. I didn't plant this one last year, but I planted it 2 years ago. It's the Rising Traub. Those are my cherry tomato varieties that are indeterminate. And then I do have a determinate variety. I don't know if you guys can hear these birds, but they are really loud. They're really going at it. Very pretty. Anyways, coming back around. I am planting another cherry tomato variety. This one's determinate. I've done this on my patio before. These are really great for containers. This is a yellow choice, patio choice yellow, sorry, tomato variety. And then I've got a couple different slicer varieties. So when we think of a slicer tomato, we think of that quintessential tomato you're cutting and putting on a sandwich. Larger fruit, usually a meatier. And so I am doing the Brandywine. So this is an heirloom variety. Done this one in the past. We really like this one. This year I also picked up the Black Beauty. I just thought it would be a lot of fun to try something really dark and different. So we're going to give this one a shot. And then I am also going to attempt to grow the Castelletto Genovese. This is an Italian variety. I have tried to grow these in years past. I have a difficult time germinating this, so we'll see how this one does. And then I have a kind of another paste variety. This one was a free packet from Baker Creek. It's the Pink Fang. And then along those lines, I also have a Roma that's indeterminate called the Striped Roma that I'll be growing. And then another determinate variety for my grow pots. That is the Supremo Roma. This one did really well for me last year. So these are the varieties I'm going to be growing. So let's go ahead and get these seeds started. All right, so I have already gone ahead. Like I said, I've filled these up with soil seed starting mix. I've gone ahead and also labeled them just so that I knew how many of each variety to start. Whereas if you watched my pepper starting video, you knew I did a lot of back and forth math. I went ahead and took care of that before I started filming today. I do use blue painter's tape with a permanent marker to just label these cell seeds. And so essentially I'm going to be doing 2 of each variety. I am going to be doing 2 of each variety along my trellis, and then the Supremo Romas, which are my determinate Roma variety, I'll be planting 5, which I'll actually be planting 6 today, just because I hate to waste an empty cell in these 6 cells. So I'm going to go ahead and get these planted. Now, most of the instructions are going to be the same all across the board for planting tomatoes. We're going to plant them about 1/8 of an inch deep, so not very deep at all. So I'll just be making a little indentation here. I'll drop a couple seeds into each cell just to make sure that, again, germination is happening. One nice thing about starting tomatoes by seed is you don't even necessarily have to plant them into individual cells. A lot of gardeners will plant them heavily into the same space, and then once they grow and start putting on a couple true leaves, they will actually kind of tweeze out the different seedlings and then individually pot them up. I have done that before in years past. It works perfectly fine. This year I have the space, I have the 6 cells that I can afford to go ahead and start them individually. Now, like I said, I'm going to be putting a couple seeds into each cell. If I feel like I need any extras, I won't necessarily pull that extra seedling if they both germinate. I might hold on to it for some reason or other. If I have any friends who want some tomatoes too, I can go ahead and hold on to those too. But what I'll do is I will get these started, and then one thing to keep in mind with tomatoes, and going back to the reason why I am starting these a few weeks later than some gardeners have already started, is that tomatoes grow very quickly. And what I'll have to be mindful is I am starting these in smaller seed cells today. So once these get to be a decent size, I will definitely want to pot them up. And I do have larger pots that I can do that with, and I can afford that space. We'll start here with the Patio Choice Yellow. So like I said, this is a determinate variety. I have grown these the last couple of years. This is actually an older seed packet from 2024. Seeds should still be good and viable. This tomato variety is really nice. It seems to be an early producer, which is one of the reasons why I like it. Like I said, it also does really well in containers. It gets to be about 18 inches tall. I'd say probably closer to 2 feet, honestly. But they're really nice container size. So if you are growing, maybe you only have like a patio or a deck, great option for a cherry tomato to plant. And like I said, I'm going to only start 2 of these. Hopefully, yeah, I still have some seeds left. I was going to say, I don't even know how many seeds I've got left here. I've got plenty. Okay. All right, so I'm going to drop a couple in each cell, and then I'll just kind of cover them up. Next up is going to be the Sun Gold, which is the indeterminate cherry tomato variety. If I can find it. There it is. Okay. This is the Sun Gold. I grew these for the first time last year. They have a really, really great taste. They are among a lot of gardeners' favorites to grow. I feel like I struggled with my squirrel pressure with these last year a lot. And so I'm looking forward to maybe implementing some different things to try to control that. But these were really, really good. And I might only have, oh no, there's one in there. Don't have a ton of these seeds. I've got one more seed in there. Come on, buddy. There you are. So the Sun Golds are considered a thinner skinned tomato. A lot of the yellows and orange tomatoes are just thinner skinned. And essentially what that means is if you see them starting to ripen out on the vine, then you kind of want to make sure you pick them before you get any kind of heavy rain. I'm going to go ahead and pop this other one in here. You want to make sure you pick them if you have any rain coming in the forecast, because what tomatoes will do is when it rains, they will swell. And because they're thinner skinned, their skins can be prone to cracking. So just keeping that in mind for any yellow type tomatoes. All right, next one we've got here is the Brandywine. Now this is another very old packet of seeds. I've actually had these since 2023. I might be a little bit more liberal with the seeds I start in each cell here, just to make sure that I have good germination. This is a great kind of beefsteaky, like I said, slicer tomato. It is an heirloom variety, so they can be prone to like diseases. They can also be a little bit more prone to cat facing, which is when the actual flowers that come on before the fruit, they can kind of look a little different. It's hard to explain, but essentially cat facing is sometimes when the fruit is misshapen. So that you tend to see in an heirloom variety, but these can get really, really, really big. They have a really great flavor. Had a lot of problems with the squirrels with these again last year. Last year was just a bad year for tomatoes, honestly. I need to figure out the squirrel issue. If anybody has any good ideas for managing squirrels, please let me know. I don't know what to do. I do live in the city. I don't think we can necessarily get like a pellet gun or anything for them, but I am all ears for other suggestions because I feel like if I could just control the squirrels, I could have a really, really great tomato harvest. All right, next up is the striped Roma. This is the indeterminate Roma variety. Grew these last year really successfully. I've had this pack for 2 years. My first year, I didn't realize they were indeterminate. I attempted to grow them in a grow pot. It did not work out. Last year, though, I had them on my trellis and they did great. They were a really lovely flavor, highly productive. Again, going back to those squirrels, though, kind of a pain in the butt. But once the squirrels the squirrels kind of let off the pressure late summer, so I was able to harvest quite a bit then. And when I did, these tomatoes were really good. And I think I am out of those now too. All right. Next is this Black Beauty. So this is supposed to be the world's darkest tomato. It looks blue-black. If I remember correctly, the reason for that is it's high in anthocyanins. Did I say that right? I don't know. Anyways, it's what gives some of the different fruits their dark color. So think of like blueberries and things like that. This just happens to be a variety that has that. Now, my understanding is that these need full sun in order to develop that really dark skin. So really hoping these are successful. I've never had one of these before. I don't know what the flavor is going to be like, but I was excited to try something new. If you've tried these before, let me know. I'd love to know what your experience with them is. All right, and now we have the Pink Fang. So this was a free seed packet from Baker Creek. Baker Creek will oftentimes give you free seed packets if you order enough seeds from them, and this year they gave me this one. This is an indeterminate, meaty, sweet paste tomato, great for making sauces and fresh eating. So I'm excited about this. I really want to try to do some preserving this year. Last year, with all the squirrel pressure I had, I did not really have the opportunity to do any of that besides fresh cooking. So I really hope that this year I can have that opportunity to make sauces because I think that'd be great. I don't know what my dogs are doing, but they're being really weird. Juniper's going after maybe like a lizard or something. She's digging at the fence, like not at the ground. She's digging on the fence. Junie, what are you going after? Banjo, what is it? Nope, and now they're excited. Let's see, what do we got next? We have let's do the Genovese. I am giving the Genovese tomatoes, let me show you this, the Castelletto Genovese, its own tray because I have never been able to germinate any seeds from this packet. In My Gardener is a really, solid company. And so I don't know if it is just a bad batch of seeds, which I may not even have too many in here, or if it's just been user error on my part. I know I have a friend who also grows and starts her own seeds. She has had difficulty germinating this variety as well. So it might just be a really difficult variety to germinate. However, this tomato is delicious. It is really cool. It's very unique. It's got this kind of unique ribbing shape as opposed to your traditional round tomato. So I really, really hope I can get these to germinate and grow. They're my husband's favorite. So I'm going to be trying my hardest here to get these seeds to start and hope that something magical happens here. And then just use up all the remaining seeds in this seed bag. I think a part of the reason too why I had difficulty maybe germinating these is last year I did not put my tomatoes on a heat mat, and tomatoes like heat mats. They don't necessarily need them, not like peppers kind of almost require it. And I think this variety, maybe because it's Italian, maybe it likes warmer temps. And I think that's why I did not get them to germinate. So this year I am going to put all of my tomatoes on a heat mat and really, really, really hope that that one germinates. Next up is the Supremo Roma. This is a variety that was new to me last year, and it's determinate. So I grew them in my large grow pots with some caging around them. They were really, really successful for me, highly productive. Hit by squirrels among everything else in my garden. And so I didn't really start harvesting a lot of it until, again, kind of the August, late summer. But what I did harvest was really, really good. So again, I'm going to plant a whole tray of these because I do have 5 pots that I will be allocating to these Romas with the hopes that I can do some sauce making and preserving this year. Let's see, hopefully I've got that many seeds. Yeah, I think I do. I just assume I have enough seeds every time I open these seed packets up, and so far it's been the case. So I am definitely going to have to purchase some more seeds in the future. I have a feeling next year is going to be a big seed haul. Those are planted. And then the last one I have here, and I'm only doing 2 of the cells here in this tray, but it's the tomato Riesentraub. This is a slightly larger cherry tomato. It's about a 1 ounce fruit, so I don't know if you call that a saladette or not, but it is also highly productive. I did not grow this one last year. I just didn't give myself the space to do that. So this is actually an older seed packet from 2023, but I remember really, really liking them and having really good success with them. So I'm going to go ahead and do this variety again this year, especially since I still have the seeds. I'm going to go ahead and plant more than 2 since I've got enough seeds to spare. All right, and that's it for our tomatoes. So now we're going to turn our attention to some of the other things I need to start today. So let's see what else I've got. Within the same sort of family, I suppose you could say that, as tomatoes, I am going to be starting some tomatillos today, as well as some ground cherries. Now, the tomatillo variety I'm planting today is the Grande Rio Verde. Grew this last year for the first time. I was blown away by how productive this variety was. I was also blown away by the fact that the back of the packet says compact plants about 24 inches tall. This was so far from the truth. I don't know if it was because of the pots they grew in. I don't know if the seeds were just robust, but they were easily like 4 feet tall. So we'll see what happens again this year if they will be that large. Regardless, they were really great. I did lose one to a lawnmower accident, but that was because I neglected to give them enough support. The branches got caught up. Anyways, it's a long story. Knowing that, now knowing how large these can get, I will be able to better prepare for support for the plants. This year, I'm going to start 3. Now, the thing with tomatillos is you need to have at least 2 plants because of the way that pollination works. Tomatoes, on the other hand, if you didn't know, are considered self-pollinating. Basically what that means is the flower can self-pollinate itself as long as there's just a little bit of breeze, or obviously honeybees and other insects and stuff will assist in that. But the tomatillos, you have to have 2 plants in order for the fruit to actually be fertilized and pollinated correctly so that you actually get fruit. So I'm going to do 3, so that gives me a perfect chance to make sure that I can meet that requirement. And I'm going to be growing them along one side of my little 6 cell here. Oh, these seeds are smaller than tomato seeds. Not by much, but just a little bit. Oops. And I will be starting just a few in each cell here, just to make sure that we got some germination. happening. And then the other one is going to be the ground cherry. So this is another older packet from 2024, but they germinated well for me last year. If you've never grown ground cherries, they are related to tomatillos. So they grow kind of in a little husk. They're really sweet though. It's almost like if a tomato and a pineapple had a baby. That's the best way I know how to describe it. So it does have kind of a tomato texture, the fruit. They're not very big. They're, like I said, they're small, but they are really yummy to snack on. Also, the seeds are tiny. Oh my goodness. They're really, really fun to snack on, but they're also just really fun to make like jams. So I've made jams with them in the past, and you can do all sorts of fun kind of culinary cooking with them. Or like I said, you could just snack on them. I have a hard time waiting long enough for me to have enough to make a jam. I just like to snack on them. So I'm actually emptying this one too. The seeds are so small. I'm planting just a pinch in each cell, and then I'll thin these out as needed. So now, last year I grew my ground cherries in pots, and my understanding is they self-germinate, or sorry, they self-seed really well if you grow them maybe in a like a garden space or bed. Because I had them in pots, though, I don't think I'm going to be able to have them just come up on their own. I still have a number of seed trays, seed cells here to start other things in. I'm going to be starting a lot of greens today. Now, the thing with greens like spinach, arugula, lettuce, a lot of those you can seed directly into your garden space. I have done that in the past. I feel like I have the best success with my seedlings when I am able to start them indoors and give them kind of a controlled environment. I have a lot of pest issues with the squirrels digging up my seedlings, and so that's why I'm going to be starting a number of my greens today, so that I kind of have them established. I can then plant them, transplant them into the garden, and then I can cover them maybe with a critter cage if I feel like it's needed. So I'm going to be doing, first up here is some bok choy. I have a packet of purple lady. I am going to be doing 10 of them. These don't get super big. They're a little bit on the smaller end of the bok choy. So I'm going to go ahead and start 4 in one spot and then a whole tray here for them. And I did not grow bok choy until last year. They were surprisingly easy to grow. They didn't have hardly any pest issues, and they were just kind of fun to try something new. Now, these seeds are really small. This is also an old seed packet. Got this packet for free at like a, I don't even know, like an event. Somebody was giving them out for free, and they're from 2022. So seeds have been stored well. I didn't have any issues last year with germination, but I am going to be, like I said, planting a good amount of these seeds in each pod here to make sure I have proper germination. Similar to what I did with some of my kales, if you watched my last video, which all of that has now germinated. I should show you a grow room update because things are starting to grow. Next up on the list is going to be some spinach. I've got the Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. This is supposed to be a little bit more heat tolerant. The trick with spinach is a lot of times it will just putter out when it gets too hot, but I'm hoping that this one will withstand some of the heat. I will be starting 12 of these today. I do wish I had slightly smaller pods, seed cells, just because I'd love to have more spinach, but I'm going to do 12 today, and that should be good for the season. So go ahead and get these tapped down. Ooh, that breeze feels so good. This is also an older seed packet. This is from 2023. As you guys can tell, I hold on to all my seeds, and then, like I said, next year I think I'm gonna have to restock because I'm now just starting to run low. Even with, I still have a ton of seeds left. And who knows, I may even find that I direct seed some more of these plants in the garden when it warms up. I was past my last projected frost date, But for now, I love to have just a stash of seedlings ready to go when that time comes. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's a red-shouldered hawk somewhere nearby because I can hear it calling. All right, next is arugula. I love me some arugula. So I'm actually doing 12 pods of arugula. Again, another seed that I will probably try to do succession sowing with and plant directly into the garden once it warms up. And this packet's from 2021, so just saying, you can hold on to your seed packets for a number of years as long as you store them correctly. So let's hope that these are still good. I'll be pretty liberal here with what I'm putting into each spot. Problem is when they all germinate and then I have to go in and thin them all down to one strong seedling. All right, good deal. So we got some arugula planted. Now we have some Swiss chard. The Swiss chard variety that I have on hand and that I have planted in the past is a perpetual spinach Swiss chard. This tastes a lot like spinach. I'm on the fence about like true pure Swiss chard flavor, and that's why I opted to get this one instead. This one does do well midsummer as well in the heat, which the other spinach I think will probably peter out a little bit sooner than that. So this will be a nice kind of overlap. Again, it's gonna lend itself to kind of tasting similar to spinach and being used similar in the kitchen that way. This is another very old seed packet from 2021. So I'm only planting 6 this year of these. I remember in years past when these come in and they can be really, really productive in that kind of cut and come again mentality. So I don't think I'll need any more than 6. Very noisy little bird behind me. All right, great. Okay, so that takes care of my tray here with all my 6 cells. Now, let me move this out of the way because the last thing I want to do today is start some lettuce. Here's the thing with lettuce is very easy to direct seed in the garden. So definitely I will be doing some more of that once the temperatures are a little bit more stable. But like I said, I want to go ahead and be in a place where I can start with some seedlings and just plop them into the garden when it's good and time is ready to go. So what I'm doing is I am using, these are some seed starting equipment I ordered off Amazon a number of years ago. This is a 12 pod tray. They come with their own little kind of, I guess you can call it, bottom feeding water thing. And then obviously you can see here, this is plastic. I'm not a huge fan of these. I've been slowly replacing them with better quality seed starting equipment. However, because I can start 12 at a time and I've got 3 different lettuces, I thought that was kind of nice. So the only thing with this kind of seed starting is it's a little tricky to get the actual cells out when you're ready to plant them. Sometimes I have to use like a spoon to fish them out. Other than that, they work really well. They're just not as sturdy as some of the other things. So I am going to start 3 different lettuce mixes. So I've got each mix I'm going to do differently. And I am going to start with the mini romaine little gem. Really, really enjoy this one. Most of the lettuces I plant, I don't wait for it to grow to full maturity until like a head of lettuce. I usually just do the cut and come again, which is when you kind of let it grow up and then you come out in the garden with some scissors and cut it for fresh lettuce eating. That works for me. Now, some of these I might let them mature all the way. This is considered a small variety of romaine. It makes about petite 6-inch tall heads of lettuce. So that could be kind of fun to have like a full little head if I can wait that long. Otherwise, I will just be cut and come again, like I said. So these are all essentially surface sow or about 1/8 inch. So I will go ahead and just kind of make a little indention here, and then I'll drop a couple seeds in each one, and then I'll thin them out. And then, like I said, once the weather kind of stabilizes more after our last frost date, I am going to try to do some succession sowing with lettuce. Lettuce is not going to be a good summer crop, but if I can succession sow, then I'll be able to have multiple rounds of lettuce being ready. So we do love a good salad for lunch or for dinner, so it'd be nice to have a lot of lettuce on hand. I'm actually doing like a little pinch in each cell here. That might be a little challenging to thin these, and that's okay if I can't get them fully thinned. And another reason why I like to start with a seed starting mix that's kind of damp is especially for some of these surface level sowing, it just helps the seeds stick a little bit easier to all of the soil. Okay, great. So that one's done. The next variety of lettuce I'm going to be growing is the Lunix. So this is a really dark, kind of a red purple leaf. Again, I purchased this because why not? It's fun. Anything that's a little bit different that you can't find in the store is always fun for me to grow. I think that's why I like gardening so much and starting seeds, is because you get to start those things that aren't necessarily conventional. Although nowadays you see a lot of darker lettuce mixes that you can buy, but same thing. This is going to be a surface sowing. This is frost hardy, so I wonder if I could get some of this started sooner. My calendar for direct sowing listed some later dates, so we'll see. We'll see if I want to direct sow some of these sooner than that. Like I said, we are due for some very, very bitterly cold weather tomorrow night for a couple days, and then it'll warm back up again. And it'll do this yo-yo thing for several weeks, which is really frustrating because days like today when it's 75, you just want to get out in the garden and plant everything, but you can't. Mother Nature's teasing us. And now, last but not least, we have the Butter Crunch, which is a butterhead variety. Again, I cut and come again all of my lettuce, but if I were to let this mature fully, so in about 21 days, they make small heads, single serve salads. So, but should be good. Like I said, I might let some of these mature all the way. Usually I don't have enough patience. I just want to harvest all the things out of the garden right away. Surely I'm not the only gardener out there like that, right? Now, if I were direct sowing these seeds, I'd do very similar to what I'm doing here, is just sprinkling them on the surface and then lightly covering them. And then, of course, being able to go in and thin them out if they are too thick. Lettuce is one of those things that if you're not already growing it in your garden, you should really think about doing it because it's so easy to grow and it's so expensive at the store, especially if you're doing any kind of organic gardening. I try not to use any pesticides on my stuff, so it's definitely worth it to plant my own lettuce. Only downside is it doesn't like the heat, so it tends to peter out in the summer, and then that's usually when you want to have salads, right? With your fresh tomatoes. So I may toy around with seeing if I can find some shadier places in the garden this year, if I can maybe extend the season of growing lettuce. Otherwise, I think I'm good with what I've got. All right, I thought I would bring you in and show you the progress on the seeds that have been started so far. This top shelf is my peppers. They are sitting on a heat mat down there. It's not a very big one. I need to get a bigger one in the future, but as you can see, they are just now starting to germinate over the last few days. If you look real close, look really, really close, and there's a babe seedling. So, hey, little guys. So very exciting. As you know, as I've mentioned before, peppers are very slow to germinate. So it's been about 2 weeks since I started these guys. There's still some cells, obviously, that need to come up. Hopefully they all germinate well. And then this seed tray here is some lavender that I started. And I'm excited to say there is a little seedling coming up. Really, really exciting. I don't know if you can see it. It's there. Oh, there's one right there too. Very exciting. I had to do cold stratification on those seeds, and so I didn't know if that was going to work. First time I ever did that, so very excited to have some lavender. And then down below we have a number of things. So we do have my rosemary, which fortunately this seed mix was a little too off in the ratio and it stayed wet. You can see the algae stuff that grew on top, but we do have some rosemary that germinated. We have oregano, which is looking great. I just thinned these guys out. This is my magic carpet thyme. Very excited that these guys germinated because those seeds were tiny. At the back row, we have a number of our brassicas that are coming up. You can tell they are getting really big. These guys popped up real fast. And you can tell the difference because these were planted the same time I planted my peppers, but you can tell that they germinated a lot faster. I did thin them out. I have got a couple cells I still need to come through and thin out. So what I do is I wait until, a few of them have popped up, and then I pick the one that I feel like is the strongest looking one, and that's the one I keep. So that's how I thin that. And then the shelf below is our onions and leeks. So we've got our yellow, these are yellow onions. They look a little, they've been fed. I don't know if they need more fertilizer, but this is the variety that I actually misplanted. This is the, what was it, short day variety when I needed long day, or was it the other way around? Anyways, I planted the wrong variety. So these are going to be an experiment for me. I'm going to plant them out in the garden, but I'm going to be curious to see how they do versus the proper variety I was supposed to plant. This is my reds. As you can tell, these are looking really great. These are the correct yellows, which these guys are looking awesome. I need to come in and thin them out, give them a bit of a haircut. Same with these onions and leeks. So these are, I think, the green onions, and these are my leeks back here. So these are looking good. Like I said, we're going to be planting these out in a few weeks into the garden, which is really, really exciting. I do need to go ahead and top them off, I think, just to help them stand up maybe straighter. I don't know. They're doing really well. They look pretty good. They've got plenty of space with these lights. So anyways, hopefully I can find enough space for my tomatoes. I'm gonna have to move some things around and recalibrate stuff. What are you doing down there? Yeah, you can't be in here. This is where the cats hang out. This is where the litter box is at. And you can't be in here. No, ma'am. Sorry. Well, all right, everyone, that is it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me in my garden and starting some seeds. It's always a really big day when you get to start the tomato seeds. I think that's one of the more exciting plants to start for the garden. Honestly, most of the seeds have been started at this point, which is also really, really exciting. As you can see, my grow room is definitely doing its job, hoping that I have enough room for all these new things that I started. In just a few short weeks, we will be planting some stuff out. I think starting after April 1st, I'll be able to look at transplanting my onions. I need to double check on that because I'm not entirely sure when my last frost date is. In years past, it's been around April 10th. So at the very least, in less than a month, we will be transplanting some things out. We'll also be starting some more things from seed, but not indoors. We will be doing some direct sowing of things like carrots and radishes, turnips and beets. So we have all of those things to start eventually. I still need to purchase a few garden beds for this season, so stay tuned. Hopefully that'll be happening sooner than later. And yeah, we are starting to kick off this year with a lot of great things, and I'm really, really excited to see how everything grows in, and I'm really excited to share that with you. So thanks so much for watching, hanging out with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. I want to know what your favorite type of tomato is. All right, thanks guys. Until next time, bye.